Hi there, everyone. It's 4 o'clock in New York. At this very moment, Donald Trump's political career is spoiling faster than a box of Trump steaks left out in the sun. A brand new poll shows record levels of disapproval for the job that Donald Trump is doing as president, with key parts of his political coalition now completely turning on him. A poll from the Washington Post, ABC News, and Ipsos shows that just 37% of voters approve of the job that Donald Trump is doing as president. 62% of them disapprove. Washington Post adds this, quote, his ratings among Republican-leaning independents have reached a new low of 56%. His approval rating stands at 25% among independents overall. One former Trump ally turned critic, the former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, puts it like this, quote, MAGA is dead. Watch.
Today, we're in a time where many Americans are realizing MAGA is dead. And do you want to know who took the actions to kill MAGA? It was the creator and the founder himself, Donald Trump. When we campaigned on lowering inflation and reducing gas prices and caring about domestic issues that matter to Americans, the White House front door became a revolving door to foreign leaders, not to Americans, and not to industry leaders and those involved in working on the domestic solutions that Americans needed.
So the issues Marjorie Taylor Greene is talking about there, inflation and the cost of everything, that has become Donald Trump's biggest political albatross right now. 23% of Americans approve of Donald Trump's handling of the cost of living. In that Washington Post, ABC News, Ipsos poll, a whopping 76% disapprove. Pollster and publisher of The Bulwark, Sarah Longwell, told me in this week's episode of The Best People that voters right now do not like what they're seeing, and they know exactly who's to blame for it. Watch.
Number one, everybody thinks the state of the country is bad, which is why right track, wrong track is so low. These guys reinforce that with their everything's terrible. And then they immediately go to how expensive things are and how the war in Iran is raising them, how tariffs are raising them. And this is one of the reasons that Trump's numbers are starting to fall, and where the objective reality kicks in is that people know that the tariffs are Trump's. People know that the Iran war is Trump's. They don't think it's Congress. They don't think it's somebody else. They know Trump is doing it, that he made the call to do it, and that it is raising their prices, and that is what they are mad about.
Meanwhile, there is brand new reporting on how big parts of Trump's coalition, the parts that provided the money and the volunteers and the support for Donald Trump to win the Republican nomination 3 times and prevail in the general election twice, are also souring on the job Donald Trump is doing as president. Look at this headline in the Wall Street Journal. The anti-abortion movement is turning on Trump. From that reporting, quote, abortions are up in the years after the overturning of Roe, and the anti-abortion lobby has a new locus for blame. Trump is the problem, they say. The president is the problem. That's Marjorie Dannenfelser. She's the influential president of the Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America. Big source of their frustration is the fact that the Trump administration is allowing abortion pills to be shipped by mail. But they're not the only special interest or activist group that is mad at Donald Trump right now. Politico reports this, quote, leaders in RFK Jr.'s Make America Healthy Again movement are outraged over Donald Trump's Surgeon General nominee switch since Trump announced Thursday that Nicole Saphier, a radiologist and former Fox News medical contributor, will replace Casey Means, a close ally of the health secretary, as Donald Trump's pick for the nation's top doctor. They've rushed to social media to share why they believe Trump's decision is short-sighted. Growing signs of discontent and Donald Trump's political base turning on him bigly is where we start today. Democratic pollster and political analyst Cornell Belcher is back with us. Also joining us, political analyst, former Senator Claire McCaskill is back, and back with me at the table for the hour, senior political analyst, contributing host on Pod Save America, the host of the podcast Runaway Country, Alex Wagner's here. Cornell, I'll let you jump in on the polling. Sarah Longwell's theory of the case is that there is a Bush line, that George W. Bush left office at 32%. And it's sort of a point at which you are basically absent any and all political juice. Donald Trump is at 32% in some polls. I think ABC has him at 33. There are a couple of very reputable polls that have him at 33. This 37 is the lowest number he's registered in the ABC WashPo poll.
Yeah, no, and that number in all the polling, I'm saying it's closer to 33 than 37. And look, Nicole, you've got to go back to George W. The Daddy Bush decades to see polling numbers that have collapsed like this, right? On every measure, the president is underwater, and on the things, the broader brand pillars of the Republican Party having to do with the economy and even immigration, the president's now underwater. And particularly underwater, you talked a little bit about this with independent voters, even with independent voters who lean Republican. He's completely collapsed into the 30s with independent voters. Now, why does this matter? This matters because of the elections. And if you look at way independent voters are breaking, like, you had the governor, New Jersey's governor, Nikki Sherrill, on your podcast recently, and I think she's fantastic. But she won independent voters by double digits by 13 points. Spanberger won independent voters in Virginia by 19 points. Everyone on this broadcast know it's really hard to be competitive, especially in these swing districts, if you're losing independents by double digits. The other interesting number, really quickly, Nicole, I thought was fascinating in that Washington Post data, was he's now underwater on the economy. Majority of non-college white voters are now disapproving of his job on the economy. Why, again, is that important? He carried those voters by better than 30 points in the last election. So if they're turning on him, it becomes really problematic. The whole coalition begins to collapse.
I have this theory, and this may put me in the minority, but I think some of the talk on the MAGA side about rigging the election is in some ways this psychological bulwark against the size of the losses, because you can gerrymander it into the shape of your favorite zoo animal. You can make a map look like a giraffe and you still can't win. You know what I mean? Like there's no gerrymander if you're Trump MAGA and you're losing non-college educated white voters by 20, 30 points.
Or independent voters by 15 or 20 points. One last quick thing on this, Nicole, is you opened with Marjorie Taylor Greene saying a MAGA is dead. I got a feeling that all of us are going to be talking about the rebirth of MAGA in the next 2 years, led by Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, I sort of have this image that Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker are helping to kill it, right, so that they can be like the ones with the things on it. But as you said, I feel like we will all reconvene to cover that, many news cycles. Claire McCaskill, I feel like you're the foremost expert on the importance of what's happening in these poll numbers. Just tell me how you read these and what your warnings are for Republicans.
Well, all you have to do, Peter Baker had a great tweet today where he went back and did the history of presidential approvals and losses in midterms. And presidents that had a 51% disapproval, 51% approval still lost 30, 40 seats. Bush, who was about where Trump is now, I think you'll painfully remember he lost 30 in the midterm when his numbers were so low. But what Sarah said is really important. And one of the things that happens with voters, especially voters who are not dialed in to politics 24/7 like we are, they get their information about, well, whose fault is it? Whose fault is it? And it's not clear always whose fault it is. Is it state government? Is it local government? Is it federal government? Is it the Republicans? Is it the Democrats? On this, it's very obvious. Gas prices are Trump's. And there's nothing bigger than gas prices, ever. With those independent voters, with those white, non-college educated, with the areas of the electorate that Trump has to win, even if he just wins it by a small margin. You can't get away from it. And what's really interesting about the gas prices is nobody's trying to lie about it. They're basically saying we're just going to have to suffer for a while. It's worth it to go after Iran. Well, it's not to the folks that are driving those big pickups in Missouri. It's not worth it to them. They don't even understand why we're really there. They don't even get what the deal is. And so they're pulling up and they're spending over $100 to fill their tank. And they do not understand why we had to go to war with Iran. So she's absolutely right. Trump owns proudly the tariffs. He's the only one. And tariffs is his favorite word. And the war in Iran, he owns them. He's going to own them all the way to November. And by the way, the presidential nominee for the Republican Party who tries to carry the MAGA flag, they're going to own them.
The other problem they have is new. It's all become, as you know, I've said this for years now, like it makes my brain hurt. Covering Trump has made me dumber. You now have the MAGA coalition saying the same thing, right? So you've got Joe Rogan and Tim Dillon echoing that message. Here's right-wing MAGA adjacent podcaster. I don't even know if he'll own that title, but that's how I view him. This is Tim Dillon.
This is not a good show. That's the biggest problem here for DT. This is not a good show, and he knows it. He knows this is not a good show. Trump is well aware of why he is the president. He knows this country better than most people, maybe anyone. And it's not a nice thing. This is the opposite of great TV. It isn't exciting. It's not nearly as engaging as it needs to be. So what you have is a bunch of people that are checking out, which he doesn't like. They're tuning out. They're turning it off. And so when they turn it off, you got to remember, they go out into the world. The gas prices are high. The food prices are high. Why? This war. But they're not watching his show anymore.
So I don't know Tim Dillon, and I don't want to give him too much credit, but I don't want to take any credit away from him either. It is one of the more astute articulations of what's going on. So it's not a good show, and when they turn it off, the bad show, you got to remember they go out into the world. The gas prices are high. The food prices are high. Why? This effing war.